But I remember this Terminator movie. I don't believe it as well. Da-da-da-dam! Crazy! I still like this joke. I just better focused on arts. Welcome back, and I also welcome everybody who's interested in science. And today I will discuss 5 cool neuroscience publications. So some of these news are about fundamental neuroscience, whereas others related to ongoing state-of-the-art practical applications. I mean, we need to be practical, right? As usual, links to the original scientific publications are in the description below, because obviously what we're gonna discuss is based on the works that has been published. And we're gonna start right now. Let's go! Go! On the 5th place, we have a paper that highlights an interesting link between Alzheimer's disease and a disruption of a person's sleep cycle. So what are we talking about? Alzheimer is a neurodegenerative disease, meaning that neurons in the brain unfortunately degenerate. This disease starts slowly and progressively worsens as more and more neurons degenerate. And the disease process is associated with the formation of specific plaques and tangles that are formed by the misfolded and misfunctional proteins. And one of the specific examples is the formation of so-called A-beta plaques. It's just the name of a plaque. Wait, actually, this horrible disaster continuation of beautiful Harry Potter series. The series is great, but the cursed child is just, it's pain, man. But wait, what I was thinking about, the best part of this book is the cover page, because probably they put the scheme of A-beta plaque on the cover page. Oh look, seriously, it's the same. I still like this joke, and we still put it in the video. Let's continue. In a recent paper published in PLOS Genetics, researchers from the US utilized cell cultures to measure the activity of immune cells responsible for removing these misfunctional proteins. I mean, we have a protection system in our organisms to avoid the formation of the above described plaques, so it makes total sense to see what is going on with this protection system and why it's not functioning. It was turned out that under normal conditions, immune cells perform their work according to daily cycles controlled by circadian rhythms. With the disruption in circadian rhythms, the work of these immune cells was disrupted as well. And importantly, scientists could identify the molecular factor that drives the activity of the immune cells according to circadian rhythms, a protein named heparan located on the surface of immune cells. Besides the fact that this paper uncovers the mechanism that links the disruption of circadian rhythms to Alzheimer's disease, it also highlights a new way to potentially decrease the chances of Alzheimer and to ameliorate the symptoms. What to do? To maintain circadian rhythms. The thing you can do yourself right now.
You owe it to your family. You owe it to yourself.
On the 4th place, we have a paper that reveals the mechanism behind the loss of smell with COVID-19, or correctly say, a potential mechanism. In most cases, the loss of smell or impaired sense of smell after COVID lasts for a few weeks. But in some instances, the problem persists for several months. So in the paper published in Cell, researchers from Grossman School of Medicine in the US conducted the experiments on golden hamsters and on respiratory tissue samples from patients who unfortunately died from COVID-19. And with the samples from patients who died from COVID-19, it's clear we want to see what was going on there. But why golden hamsters? Because they depend more on the sense of smell than humans and are more susceptible to nasal cavity infection. So therefore, golden hamsters fit very well to studies of what is going on in the olfactory system and specifically what is going on upon COVID-19. In both hamsters and the tissue from humans, the researchers team detected the persistent and widespread downregulation of olfactory receptor buildings. So receptors that are supposed to guide our smell have not just been built. So how do the researchers try to explain this? Again, what they found was this downregulation of the olfactory receptors, but not the exact mechanism. But still, let's take a look on a rough explanation. The presence of the virus, COVID-19, near neurons in olfactory tissue, or simply speaking, nose tissue, brought on the stage immune cells that sense and counter the infection. Such cells release proteins called cytokines that act against the virus. But also these cytokines may be responsible to alter the genetic activity of olfactory nerve cells that were just nearby, kind of a collateral damage. And moreover, experiments in hamsters recorded over time revealed that this downregulation of olfactory neuron receptors was long-lasting and prevented the restoration of the sense of smell even after COVID is cleared. So apparently COVID was coding the formation of kind of nuclear memory, that's what they name in the paper, hampering the normal regulation of a gene expression. As an addition, other work posted by these authors suggests that since olfactory neurons are wired into sensitive brain regions and that ongoing immune cell reaction in the nasal cavity, the one we just described, could therefore influence the working of the other brain regions that drive higher order cognitive processes such as emotion, thinking, etc. And this constitutes another link to a known post-COVID cognitive fog, the potential reasons of which I have reviewed in the other video, links in the description below. So, I mean, it's crazy that this COVID is not just shortly influenced our well-being, but caused these long-lasting changes in the nuclear architecture of the cells. It's not even directly infecting. Okay, move forward. We're coming to the third place, and here we go to the tech sector. Deepmind. Deepmind. So many great things they've done recently. AlphaCode, right, with this predicting of the ternary structure based on the sequence of amino acids. Then AlphaGo with this Go game. Now AlphaCode. Crazy thing. I wonder what's going to be next. Well, I mean, let's go back to the video. Deepmind, which is a part of Alphabet, aka Google, presented new AI coding engine named AlphaCode, which is, according to the test, performed as good as an average human programmer. So Deepmind tested the AlphaCode on the Codeforces, the platform which is used to assess the level of competence of programmers. So you can change the presented challenges yourself, but in a nutshell, these challenges are different from the sort of task a coder might face doing, say, a commercial app. Think of them as very specialized puzzles that combine logic, math, and coding experience. And these challenges were fed to the neural network engine, which is named AlphaCode. Importantly, the tasks were presented exactly the same format they are given to humans, essentially just a text. Then AlphaCode reads the task, codes the solution, and submits it, exactly the same way as human competitor might. And here's one of the code examples produced by the engine. So the system works in classical machine learning paths. So you create a model, pre-train and tune it, and then test on the above described Codeforce repository. And since this paper as well as the reviewers to it are available online, I will leave the corresponding links in the description for those who are interested in more technical details. So the story got quite a lot of hype, which is absolutely not surprising. So let's just briefly mention the main outcomes. Here we can see how AlphaCode generates a solution for the given problem. Color highlights parts of the problem description and the solution to which AlphaCode looks at a specific time point. It also makes sense, right, that it looks at both to verify what has been already done to successfully move forward. And of course, AlphaCode does it in parallel with multiple heads of the network. Overall, AlphaCode was tested on 10 challenges that has been tackled by 5,000 users, roughly, I think it was 5,000, on the Codeforce side. So on average, AlphaCode ranked within the top 54% of responses. Crazy! Because that means it was performing as good as an average programmer, like a bit more than 50%. Makes sense. So Deepmind researchers, though, they state that the research was still in the early stages, but the results brought the company closer to creating a flexible problem-solving AI. So, which means a program that can autonomously tackle coding challenges that are currently the domain of human programmers. And, well, we will see where it goes and whether at some point neural nets will code better than people. I mean, these nets are everywhere. Medicine, economy, science, now even programming. I wonder what will be left for humans in the future.
In order to change a human being into this.
Wow.
No. I don't believe it.
I don't believe it as well.
I didn't say it would be easy, Neo. I just said it would be the truth.
And let's move back to science, okay? The second place is given to a paper published in Nature Communications by the researchers from Sweden. In that paper, scientists presented an artificial neuron based on organic semiconductors. So these artificial neurons was capable of learning similar to real neurons and was even able to integrate with a living organism, a hunting plant named Venus flycatcher. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So upon this integration, it was causing this plant to slam as a response to the signal delivered through this artificial neuron. So now we have kind of a hybrid between a living organism and a machine. So let's dig a bit into this paper. So, brain-machine interfaces, verbal electronics, next generation prosthesis, those are super hot fields of the research right now. But the further the development requires the integration of artificial devices with living biological systems. So previously, most of these devices were silicon-based and they have a number of drawbacks. So they tend to be too rigid or low energy efficiency. So meaning that you may need to use voltages outside of the normal range of the neurons. But even if you deal with these two first issues, your application will be fundamentally hampered because the operating principle is very different from the biological principle of signal transmission. I'll explain a bit later. So as an alternative, scientists from Sweden proposed an organic semiconductor, the principal operation of which is much more similar to that of real neurons. So how did the scientists accomplish this goal? Scientists created organic electrochemical transistors printed on thin plastic foil. So these transistors contained either P or N-type polymers, meaning that they could carry either positive or negative charges. And by combining a number of such transistors into a single circuit, scientists created a synthetic analogous of a neuron, which operates by moving both positive and negative charges, similarly to real neurons that also change their membrane potential by moving positive and negative ions across the cell membrane. This is pretty amazing because, as you can see in the figure, which should appear here, scientists succeeded in reproducing the main elements of a neuron, dendroid, cell body, and an axon. Each part of this electrochemical circuit was directly related to the real biological compartment, so we don't need to try to mimic the signal produced by the neurons, like with silicon devices, but rather to reproduce the fundamental structure. And now let's see, what are the results? The resulting artificial neuron functioned at the voltages less than 0.6 volt, almost an order of magnitude lower than the voltages with which the previous analogous worked. So energy efficiency we discussed before. To demonstrate the functionality of the created neuron, the scientists connected the synthetic neuron to a plant named Venus flycatcher. Yes, I think this is how it's named. That closes its leaves to capture prey. And as a result, this synthetic neuron successfully transmitted a signal to close the trap, although the prey was not in it. So finally, as a further perspective, the authors showed that the artificial electrochemical synapse that is now created between these artificial neurons is capable of learning according to so-called Heb's principle, which is formulated for real neurons. So according to this rule, simultaneous activation of neurons strengthens their synaptic connection. This was the case for these artificial structures as well, highlighting the importance of the fact that these synthetic neurons share the same working mechanism as the real neuron, and has an advantage compared to silicon analogs that I shortly touched at the beginning. Therefore, systems based on such type of synthetic neurons may become the basis of next generation wearable electronics and brain-computer interfaces. I think that sounds cool. That sounds like a ending sentence. Actually, I remember this Terminator movie where the guy got caught by humans and he thought he was a human, but at the end he was partially human, but with artificial part integrated in him. And technically this integration was so smooth that he has not even noticed it till Christian Bale confronted him.
You think you're human?
I am human.
Well, some things reminds me of it. with this smooth integration. So yeah. So let's smoothly continue to the topic of the integration between the living organisms and electronics. And you may ask me that, okay, these artificial neurons you've discussed are the topics for the future, but what about now? And we have many people who need the brain-machine interfaces now to restore some of the hampered functions, such as movements. And this brings us to the first place, where we have a paper published in Nature Medicine by the group from Switzerland, Lausanne EPFL. So scientists developed a neural stimulation device that allowed patients whose lower bodies were completely paralyzed after spinal cord injuries to walk, bike, and even swim.
Patients use activity-specific stimulation programs outdoors to walk. Activity-dependent stimulation protocols supports the production of other motor activities, such as swimming, cycling,
So, importantly, the results published in these papers are now in the process of being commercialized to bring them to broader audience. So let's take a look on these breakthroughs. Before initiating any movement, the spinal cord receives a message from the brain, ordering it to stimulate a particular pool of nerve cells, which in turn activate the necessary muscles. This is a routine, something we don't even think about because everything happens automatically in this case. So, but after a spinal cord injury though, messages from the brain can no longer reach the nerves. And to circumvent this problem, researchers inserted electrodes in the spinal cord that could create electrical fields to stimulate the nerves.
Pre-operative planning procedure guides the neurosurgical implantation of the paddle lead. Intraoperative testing allows to refine the position of the paddle lead based on muscle responses to single pulses of stimulation. A 3D CT scan enables the registration of the paddle lead in the computational model to facilitate the configuration of stimulation protocols post-operatively.
So then scientists developed algorithms that instruct the electrodes to send the signals to stimulate individual nerves that control the trunk and legs muscles in the right sequence, in the sequence that correspond to different physical activities.
Physical therapists can fine-tune stimulation parameters with a handheld tablet that also provides real-time information on muscle activity, kinematics, and the occurrence of stimulation triggers, such as clicks from the patients to activate stimulation sequences.
The software adapts to each patient's anatomy. After implantation of this device, patients could already activate their legs immediately and even take their first steps. So of course the patient's muscles were atrophied and they needed help, including learning how to use the new technology to begin with and so on and so on. But the more patients train and the more they undergo the physical therapy, the more they begin step by step activating their own muscles and the more mobile they become.
Within 1 day, the 3 participants with complete sensory motor paralysis are able to produce independent steps on a treadmill. After a few days, they could walk independently over ground. We developed an engineering framework that allows the use of activity-dependent stimulation programs in rehabilitation settings, as well as outdoors.
So if the results of this study are confirmed in larger trials, people who have been immobilized by spinal cord injury may someday be able to choose an activity such as walking or swimming and then send the appropriate command to the implanted device, which will stimulate their nerves and muscles to perform the corresponding movements. So at the end, it's also important to acknowledge that there were decades of preclinical and clinical research showing that this epidural electrical stimulation, which is a scientific term of the electrical stimulation we just discussed, so this stimulation over the spinal cord can restore walking after the spinal cord injury, and such examples have been published before. The challenges addressed in this paper were to translate these previous findings into an available and scalable therapy approach, which will not only enable the recovery of numerous motor activities, but also mediate this recovery in every treated individual. And this was one of the main challenges tackled. So thanks for watching this video. If you like this, please give it a thumb up and share what you think of or feel in the comment section below. As usual, every comment will receive a response, and if you do not like this video, you are welcome to in the comment section as well to share the constructive criticism, which actually may be quite helpful to improve the content. So if you want to follow the recent neuroscience news, subscribe and come back at the new videos. And for now, I hope to see you soon. As a bonus for those who watch till then, there is a large body of emerging technologies, and it's very great that we have now new materials, software, machine learning approaches that give us so much opportunities to bring our ideas into the real world. But imagine that you had such ideas 100 years ago, and it will not be feasible to bring them from blueprints to the world. So apparently some of these ideas, specifically from Leonardo da Vinci, were feasible. And there was a drone designed on Da Vinci blueprints that can fly. So check it out. So I guess Da Vinci at some point realized that, okay, it will be too difficult to implement these technical ideas into prototypes due to technology limitation, and I just better focused on arts. I'm curious what would have happened if he had lived nowadays.
You've been called the Da Vinci of our time. What do you say to that?
Absolutely ridiculous. I don't paint.
Now I'm more curious to see Tony Stark painting.
Here's what I really want.
No, we need to finish this video. Bye bye.